cramped and dusty, the homeless life is free as air. It is not easy living the household life, to live the fully perfected holy life, purified and polished like a conch shell. Suppose I were to shave off my hair and beard, don the robes of a Buddhist monastic, and go forth from the household life into homelessness.
Okay, very good. So you've requested the Anagarika ordination according to the way we do it here at Abhayagiri, and the whites are complete. And so now this time I'll ask you to go and put these on. A couple of skilled monastics will help with that. So that phrase that Cole just recited in Pali and then the translation in English, that's a phrase that comes up in the suttas when people hear the Buddha's teachings and they develop a sense of faith, confidence, inspiration in the Buddha's teaching. And it's this very short phrase, but it comes up over and over again in the suttas. Suppose I were to do that. Suppose I were to actually go forth from the household life into homelessness. And it follows along with the Buddha himself actually making that determination. What if I was to do that? What if I was to shave off my hair and beard, don the robes of a samana, and go forth? So we use that phrase with the Anagarika ordination. They don't yet put on the brown robes, of course, but they put on the white robes or the white clothing of the Anagarika, following along with these characters in the suttas, the 8 Precepts lay people or the white-robed lay people. That comes up in the time of the Buddha as well. So famous characters. Great lay people who were white robe clad lay people like Panchakanda or Gatikara, the potter, lay people who actually reached the third stage of awakening of non-returning as lay people. So the Anagarika, it sort of reflects that aspiration. It's also the taking on a more formalized role of the renunciate precepts and learning how to eat with a bowl, eating with the group. So there's a number of practicalities that go along with that. And then that just heightened mindfulness, just having to keep one's whites clean and wearing white, having to work in the kitchen and so on. So it's a real training in heightened mindfulness, heightened awareness. So what's going to happen now is Cole will come back and he'll be in his whites, and he's got a freshly shaved head. So one of the monks helped to shave his head today for this ordination ceremony, and then he'll come back and actually formally request the 8 precepts. And of course, anybody living in the monastery is striving to follow the 8 precepts and living according to the 8 precepts. And this just makes it a bit more official. And then whether we're in the monastery or out, we're following whatever set of precepts that we've undertaken. Okay, I'm going to begin with the requesting the precepts.
Ahang bante tisaranena saha atta silani yachami dutiyampi ahang bante tisaranena saha atta silani yachami tatiyampi ahang bante tisaranena saha atta silani yachami.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhaṃ saranang gacchami.
Buddhaṃ saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi Bhutang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Te Saranakamanang Nititang.
Amapante.
Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Anatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature.
Adinadana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Adinadana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
Brahmacharya Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Brahmacharya Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from any intentional sexual activity.
I undertake the precept to refrain from any intentional sexual activity.
Musawada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Musawada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying.
Sura Miraya Macha Pamadatana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Sura Meraya Maja Pamadatana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness.
I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness.
Vikala Bhojana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Vikala Bhojana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from eating at inappropriate times.
I undertake the precept to refrain from eating at inappropriate times.
Nacha Gita Vadita Visukhadasana Malaganda Vilepana Dharana Mandana Vibhusanatana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Nacha Gita Vadita Visukhadasana Malaghanda Vilepana Dharana Bandhana Vibhusanatana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from entertainment, beautification, and adornment.
I undertake the precept to refrain from entertainment, beautification, and adornment.
Ucha Sayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Ucha Sayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying on a high or luxurious sleeping place.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying on a high or luxurious sleeping place.
Imani yata sikkhapadani samadhiyami.
Imani yata sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Imani yata sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Imani yata sikkhapadani samadhiyami.
Imani yata sikkhapadani silena sugating yante silena boga sampada silena nibuting yante tasma silang visotaye.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Bow 3 times. There's a cushion if you need to. And you're doing good so far. Welcome to the Whites. And you got your tuck there, you keep it tucked under, and that'll help the pavillon. The pavillon's like a training robe. It helps it to, when you're bowing, keep it from falling all over the place. So you're doing pretty good so far. So, and at this point, just give a bit of an introduction to the Anagarika training and the 8 precepts. And so that's what we normally do. That's our standard of what to say in the Anagarika ordination. Go over the precepts, give an intro to the training, and it's really that having requested what if I shave off my hair and beard, don the robes of a Buddhist monastic, go forth from the household life into homelessness, and that's a very big move, a very big deal. So even though you've been here, you've been living in monasteries for many months now, and so 10 months at Forest Dhamma before coming here, and now however many months you've been living here, so over a year anyway, practicing and keeping the 8 precepts already. And so very good start, very good foundation, and you've already been keeping the 8 precepts very well, so got a very good start, very good foundation. And take on the Anagarika training as a 1-year commitment, so there's not like a lifetime commitment. You don't have to be a monk or even a novice yet. You can just be an Anagarika. I remember when I started out with my Anagarika training, I was extra keen to be a monk, and the advice that Ajahn Pasano gave me at that time was, don't be a monk yet, just be an Anagarika. So we can just focus on those 8 precepts. And of course, now that you're in white, you're going to be welcome to join our, the community more. You get to use go to the MUB, the Bhikkhu Commons, and use those facilities, and also practical changes. You have a bowl now, so you'll be eating in the lineup. That's actually a very big change. You'll be learning a lot about bowl washing and even things like upataking, looking after the monks in various ways, and then also just the getting to join in with the Vinaya classes, business meetings, etc. So you'll be much more of a part of the community at this point. So you'll get a different experience of life. Your experience of life will change at this point, and you've been doing well. You've been living under your glot. So that's a good practice. But now that you're in your whites, you're going to move into a kuti. So learn how to look after your whites, and that's going to be just a practice in and of itself. So this training is quite something, and the 8 precepts, to actually follow them purely is something that's not normally done in the world. It's something that's not what people normally do, and they, with something like the 1st and 2nd precepts, the refraining from killing, refraining from stealing, these are basic morality. So in the suttas, it's like, with rod and weapon laid aside, one is compassionate toward all living beings. And so that 1st precept, we practice with it in terms of it. We're already pretty good here. We're not like committing acts of violence or anything. But then it practically comes up with things like insects or mosquitoes biting us. We don't just mindlessly slap them and kill them. We actually brush them away, or we do some in a way that doesn't kill them, things like that. With the 2nd precept, I will not take what is not given, refraining from taking that which is not given. So actually practicing with just as an Anagarika, you'll still be able to use money and drive and things like that. So you do still look after yourself in many ways. But then taking only what is given, and that also goes for, say, encouragement or things pointed out to you that is given. That might be something unpleasant that you don't want to take, but then taking that when it's given also is things that, so even the most sincere people who might say, oh yeah, please train me, please just tell me what I'm doing wrong, inevitably we'll reach a point where we hear something we don't want to hear, and it'll be difficult to hear, and then that really is what will come up against that threshold of where we might suffer over something that somebody tells us. It might be a very ingrained thing or an ingrained habit that we have, and we don't want to hear about it. But then if we really can practice with that, that's what really helps us to grow in the practice, and that's what really, say, is going to separate a true cultivator from someone who's just trying to get by, just day to day. So being able to take what's given in terms of encouragement and not reject that, but to really take it on, let it enter in, and so there's going to be a lot of new things to learn in that realm. Really, the third precept, the Brahmacharya, that's what really defines us as monastics. So, refraining from any type of sexual activity. So, even though on the surface, like Abhayagiri Monastery, we're like we're quite a motley crew here, group of guys, but we are following some of the strictest celibacy rules in the world of any religion, and so we aren't able to stimulate ourselves sexually in any way, and then we're able to, and that's very difficult. That's not normal for people to do. So that's the precept that people end up finding the most difficult when they come to the monastery. Although you've been living like a monk for a while now, so you're doing quite good in this area. If any of these precepts do get transgressed or broken, it's good to tell me or one of the other senior monks as soon as possible, and that's the way to purify one's precepts, is just through confession, through making it known, and then we can talk about it. And the word for offense in Pali is apati. Apati means to fall down, and then the parisuddhi, the purification, that's when we pick you back up. So if you fall down, then we help to pick you back up. And so if there is any transgression or doubt that there may have been a transgression, then you just let me know, let somebody else know, and we'll talk about it. We'll try to help you out. So that's kind of our job. So the Brahmacharya, this is a very difficult one to follow, and it also, things like desire and passion, these things actually come in waves, and so if we don't give into it once or twice, it does start to get easier, and we develop that sense of aditana with this, and then we develop the skills. We make the holy life work for us. So then the fourth precept, musawada, I prefer the older translation of, I will refrain from false and harmful speech. So, of course, practicing with things like honesty, but also not engaging in divisive speech and harsh speech, even idle chatter, which is defined by the Buddha as speech that is useless and meaningless. So we try to keep it with Dhamma as much as possible. And the fifth precept, the refraining from taking intoxicants, this one's also self-explanatory. The Buddha in the wording of the rule, it's specifically talking about alcohol. So, but also, refraining from, there's no allowance for, say, smoking marijuana in the monastery or cigarettes, and I don't think you're going to do these things, but it just has to be said. And so we refrain from those things. The sixth precept is the vikalabhojana, not eating at the inappropriate times. So the proper time is the dawn time, which is roughly 6 a.m. right now, until midday. We're calling that 1 p.m. and until the time change, when it'll change to noontime. So refraining from eating food outside of that time. Of course, we have the tonics, the allowables that are allowable here, that are allowable outside of that time. Then the refraining from entertainment, beautification, and adornment. This is the kind of thing that will, when the practice does get difficult or we're having a rough time, we might be inclined to distract ourselves in various ways. And so whether it's seeking some sort of distraction on the internet, say we can ask, we're allowed to ask permission to use the computer here if needed. So if we misuse the computer, misuse the internet in order to seek some sort of distraction, or we seek distraction through, say, like finding some way to listen to music or things like that. These are all indicators that the heart isn't at peace. So it seeks these distractions because it's quavering. It's not still. So when when that desire does come up, it's good to see, that's coming from the heart that is still suffering, the heart that's not at peace, that's not at stillness, and then we can start to look at that a bit more directly. Then the 8th precept, the refraining from lying on a higher luxurious sleeping place. This is just a mat on the floor, whatever works for us, but the rule is we don't want something that's higher than 8 inches. We say 8 finger breadths, it's roughly 8 inches. Legs that are higher than 8 inches, and then the bed frame might be a bit higher than that. So say the beds that we have in the quadplex that were offered, those are pretty much right at the limit, because those have exactly 8-inch legs on them. And so, but usually with us, like it'll be a thermarest, or even people who prefer the harder surfaces, a yoga mat on the ground, something like that. And then that's there's a saying in the Thai forest tradition that when you go to the dwelling place of a great Tudong monk, you won't be able to see where they sleep. It won't be apparent. Sometimes they might even sleep sitting up, or they might just roll a very simple mat out. But the Kruba Ajahns really recommending not putting too much effort into our sleeping place, and just having it be a very quick, simple thing that when we get up in the morning, we can get up, we can fold up our sleeping mat, put it away, get on with the practice, get on with things. And so that's the 8th precept, is really pointing to that. And another part of the ceremony is the taking of dependence, which further formalizes or solidifies this commitment. So I'll invite you to do that now, and then give a bit more explanation about that after you do the formal taking of dependence.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Acharyo me bhante hohi ayasmato nisaya vachami. Acharyo me bhante hohi ayasmato nisaya vachami. Acharyo me bhante hohi ayasmato nisaya vachami.
O paikam
Sadhu bhante.
patirupam
Sadhu bhante.
pasadikena sampadehi.
Sadhu bhante. Ajata Gerani Tero Maihang Baro Aham Pitera Sabharo Ajata Gerani Tero Maihang Baro Aham Pitera Sabharo Ajata Gerani Tero Maihang Baro Aham Pitera Sabharo.
Okay, so that pretty much completes the ceremony of Anagarika ordination. The taking of dependence, that's the asking for nisaya, or dependence. So you're taking dependence not just on me, but on the Sangha as well. But that connection is a very strong connection when you take dependence. I know with Lumpur Liam, he takes the taking of dependence very seriously, and then when people take dependence, then it's there's a connection, there's a training connection there. So that means when the final thing you chanted, the Ajata Gedani Tero Maihang Baro Ahampi Tera Sabaro, that's the I am now the burden of the Tera, or the elder, and the elder is a burden of mine, so that you'll, as an Anagarika, you'll start to learn about things like looking after the different elders, upataking, or helping out in various ways, kind of an extension of things you've already been doing. You've been generous with your time and helping out and whatnot, and have that proper attitude already, so it's going to be just more of that. And then it's also acknowledging that, say, being trained, you're going to be say, like, I'm willing to take you on as a burden, or as a trainee, and so that's a burden that myself and the Sangha is willingly taking on, and that ability to help you out and help get you onto that path to the complete ending of suffering. That's our intention. That's our aim, and to keep that in mind too. And even as an Anagarika, you can make pretty rapid progress if you hold the training properly. The more you're able to let go of and just be mind like water, just flow into any situation, the more rapid the relinquishing of suffering is going to be. And so, as an Anagarika, you can do that if you want. You can practice complete surrender. You don't have to wait. The kitchen is good for that. Just whatever happens, just taking it as it comes. Mind like water, just flowing into any different situation. And really, the amount of sacrifice we're able to make, and the amount of suffering that we're able to let go of, is going to be proportional to the amount of sacrifice that we're able to make and the amount we're able to let go. So it's like Lumpur Cha, the quote of Lumpur Cha: if you let go a little, you get a little peace. If you let go a lot, you get a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you get complete peace. And so there'll be a mental block for us, or a block in the heart. There's something stopping us from complete letting go. And so it's good to see from the outset and develop that strong, sincere commitment as to, like, seeing what is that in the heart that keeps us from complete letting go. So now at first, when the energy is fresh, and this is very important with Anagarika ordination, it's very important to make that very strong practice commitment, that very strong aim of letting go of suffering completely, because once we're here for long enough, we're here for a long time, and then we get inured more to the lifestyle here, and it becomes normal. So when you have that freshness, when you have that newness, as an Anagarika, you put forth that effort into the practice, and then once, if you go forward to novice and bhikkhu, you won't regret that. That'll be a huge foundation for you. But if you don't then create that firm foundation, then also that's going to be of a negative influence later on as a novice and as a bhikkhu. So really good to really put forth that effort right in the beginning, and you won't regret that. That's so just basically doing more of what you've been doing, but just taking that interest in learning about the Vinaya, taking that interest in really developing the food practices. So being able to eat out of a bowl, you'll start developing these different food practices. I do recommend reading the chapter on the Sakyas if you haven't done that yet. So Buddhist Master Code 1, the trainings, the Sakyas, the 75 Sakyas, specifically the 30 rules around eating. Those are good to study as an Anagarika, and really, the faster you learn those rules, the better off you're going to be later on as well. So you develop those food habits, those food practices, the higher deportment, the higher etiquette. You develop that right from the outset, and you're pretty much good to go then. And then wherever you go, whatever level of ordination you have, then you're okay. You have that deportment. So another quality that's good to develop from the outset is known as Hyryotipa. So that's like that sense of conscience, or it's generally translated in the suttas as shame and fear of wrongdoing, but kind of, telling us we should have shame and fear isn't so good sometimes, especially as Westerners. We're already kind of like ashamed of ourselves and guilty and self-conscious. So translating it more as like conscience and compunction, or like deportment and etiquette, and taking a wholesome pride in that, wholesome pride in the precepts, wholesome pride in our deportment and how we're carrying ourselves, and that's going to act as a good foundation for us for a long time. So yeah, that's just a bit of an introduction, and so at this time that completes the ordination. I'll just have you can, if you pay respects one more time, and then we'll move your seat to wherever you're going to be, and we can close the evening. So we can maybe take your whole seat and down kitty corner to where Anagarika Scott is.
So we'll end with the 10 subjects for frequent recollection by one who has gone forth on page 57, chanting book 1. Namayang pabajita binha pachavekana patam namase dasa inheti kave dhamma pabajitena abinham pachavekitaba katame dasa. Because there are 10 dhammas which should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. What are these 10? Vevaniya miha tu pakatoti apachitena abinham pachavekitapam. I am no longer living according to worldly aims and values. This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Parapatipadam neti vikati apatitena abinham pachavekitapam. My very life is sustained through the gifts of others. This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Anyo mea kapo karaniyoti papachitena abhinham pachavekitapam. I should strive to abandon my former habits. This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Kachinuko mea tasilato na upavadanti papachitena abhinham pachavekitapam. Does regret over my conduct arise in my mind? They should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Kachinuko man anuvicha vinyusa brahmachari silato na upavadanti papachitena abhinham pachavekitapam. Could my spiritual companions find fault with my conduct? This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Sabe hime hiye himana be hinana bhavo vinabhavoti papachitena abhinham pachavekitapam. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Kama sakomi kama dayado kama yoni kama bandhu kama patisarano yang kamam karisami kalayana va papakam va tasadayado vavisamiti papachitena abhinham pachavekitapam. I am the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma, abide supported by my karma. Whatever karma I shall do, for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Katam buddhasame ratindiva vitipatantiti papachitena abhinham pachavekitapam. The days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well am I spending my time? This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Kachinuko ham sunyagare abhiramamiti papachitena abhinham pachavekitapam. Do I delight in solitude or not? This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Atinuko me uttari manusa dhamma alamariyanyana dasana viseso adigato soham pachime kale sa brahmachari utto namanku bhavisamiti papachitena abhinham pachavekitapam. Has my practice borne fruit with freedom or insight, so that at the end of my life I need not feel ashamed when questioned by my spiritual companions? This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Imeko bhikkhave dasa dhamma papachitena abhinham pachavekitapati. Because these are the 10 dhammas to be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. teaching, so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples, who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha.